And
Very nice to meet you.
by the way, love your books.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say.
Thank you.
Where you're somewhere in Texas, obviously.
Yes, Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. Are you wearing a UT shirt right now? Is that right?
Yeah, Texas swimming.
Okay.
Okay. The first question that I would like to ask you is, how did you start? How did you start with your career?
Oh, okay. Well, Fausto, when I was your age, actually even younger, I was really trying to be an author. I was writing books all the time and trying to get agents and send them off to publishers, which didn't work out as well as I had hoped at the time. So I actually, after college, decided to give the movie business a shot, and I moved out to Los Angeles. And I really met everybody I could. I ended up working at a company that made kickboxing movies of all things, and convincing them that I should start writing kickboxing movies for them. And you may be too young to even know what a kickboxing movie was. There was like a version of a karate movie. Kickboxing was very popular for a while, and that was just where people kicked each other a whole lot, really. And so that auspicious beginning, I started my film career, and I eventually wrote movies that were not about kickboxing. I worked in animation a lot. I developed television shows, but eventually I decided that I wanted to try writing a book again. And I had a film agent who there was a book division. So I said, could I talk to somebody in the book division? And this agent called me up and had read my stuff, and she said, had I ever thought about writing books for middle grade? And I really had not at that point. I thought I would write books for adults, but I sort of took a step back and thought about all of the ideas I had for books. A lot of them were perfect for middle grade. And the first book I published, Belly Up, which was a mystery set in a zoo, involving a murdered hippopotamus. I originally thought that would be a mystery that the zoo vet would be solving, but then I realized that was a great crime for a kid to solve, because the police don't really investigate a whole lot of hippopotamus murders. There's no hippo homicide division of any police force in the country, and so I thought that if a kid even went to the police and told them that somebody murdered the hippo, they wouldn't take him seriously. So he got involved in solving that crime, and that book led to more and more books.
Okay, that was great. Thank you. My second question is there a person that encouraged you, that made you want to start this career of yours?
Oh, but there were lots of people who encouraged me. My parents were very encouraging. I had lots of teachers that were encouraging. I'm going to single out, though. I'll single out my one of my English teachers at Churchill High School in San Antonio. Her name was Miss Peacock, and Miss Peacock was a tremendous supporter of mine and allowed me to do all kinds of more creative writing, and so she was just a great supporter who made me think that I could be a professional writer someday.
Yeah, she was right. Your books are great.
Thanks.
Did you have a favorite book growing up before you decided to write your own?
I had lots of favorite books. A book that I like to single out is The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin, which is just a wonderful mystery. It's so good. I reread it quite often to still learn from that book. I was also a really big fan of the Encyclopedia Brown series, and I think that you can see a lot of what I learned from Encyclopedia Brown in my own writing, that you always learn some fascinating fact in the course of those stories. Encyclopedia Brown was a kid who was really smart, but was respected throughout the community for being really smart. And he had his best friend was a girl named Sally Kimball, who was the toughest kid in town. And so I think a lot of those elements sort of play out in my books.
Yeah. And the opposite was Teddy, honestly. He did solve mysteries, but honestly, he was not that respected, especially with Marge.
True. Although he does gain a little bit more respect as the series goes on.
A little. Though JJ wasn't much help.
No.
How hard is your job? I'm sure that most people would think that it's easy. I mean, I'm sure most people would think that, oh, you just write it, down a script and then ask a publisher, and then they mostly say yes. But how hard is your job, really, from your perspective, the writer?
Well, I'll say this: it's not as easy as just like sitting down and writing something and getting it published. But I do love to write, and so the reason I always wanted to be a writer as a kid was because it was like my hobby. I loved doing it. I was doing it all the time anyhow. So the idea that I get to do this for a living is really wonderful. And so in that sense, I work hard, but there are far more difficult jobs on earth than being a writer, I think.
Yeah, I bet. Yes. Now I'm gonna get into some more questions that involve the book more, not just about yourself.
Okay.
First, I'm sure that most people who have read the book are wondering, where did you get Large Marge's personality from?
All right. Well, so Large Marge is kind of based on. As I said, I grew up in an area called Hill Country Village, and we had these police. We had our own little police force, and it always seemed to us that the police were far more interested in catching us doing, like we weren't really breaking the law. They were, but it just seemed like they were just always sort of eyeing us like, sure, we were causing trouble, and there was even a hill in Hill Country Village that you could, like, I think the speed limit was 30 miles an hour, and you could get faster than 30 miles an hour on your bike coming down the hill. And somebody at once had gotten stopped by a policeman for speeding on his bicycle. And we were like, that's ridiculous. Like, you guys should be doing other things than trying to bust children for speeding on their bicycles. And so Marge is really kind of based on that sort of thing, about that, like, her job is to be security at FunJungle, and actually, probably stop, the tourists from doing things like banging on the glass of the exhibits or throwing their food into the exhibits for the animals. But what Marge seems to mostly be interested in doing is catching Teddy causing trouble.
Yeah, and honestly, my mom and I were always thinking, no, don't just go for Teddy. He does nothing wrong. In fact, he improves your job more than you do yourself.
That's the idea. No, Teddy's relationship with Marge does change over the course of the books, but
Really?
Yeah, it does a little bit. I felt like at a certain point maybe Marge would be capable of a little growth, and Teddy would be capable of a little growth as well.
Ah, nice. Yeah, I never thought that would ever happen. My next question is, how are you planning to continue the FunJungle series?
Sadly, there's no real shortage of crimes that people commit against animals. And when I first started this series, there was a sort of joking thing of like, oh, I'm going to do like, murdered hippopotamus. That doesn't really happen, but people really do. Poach animals in the wild for, rhinos are killed for their horns, elephants are killed for their tusks. Animal trafficking is actually the second most profitable international crime after drug trafficking, where people are moving either parts or live animals illegally. So after I had done a couple books, and I was actually approached by a woman from the World Wildlife Fund's Animal Crimes Division, which I did not know existed until she reached out to me. And so I do talk to them about, what are some of the issues that concern them about the world. And I've been able to sort of take on more serious issues about human wildlife conflict, or animal trafficking or poaching. And so there's sort of this wealth of other of crimes, sadly, that I can deal with. And so I'm working on taking a lot of those and figuring out how to tell stories that involve those that Teddy can get involved with.
Yeah, of course. And did you know that actually before that we had modern medicine, people actually used to steal rhinoceros horns because they were believed to have healing abilities for other people?
That's absolutely true, but sadly, that's still actually going on. I mean, we have modern medicine, but there's still a lot of there's still a lot of people out there who believe that rhino horn has some curative power. It does not. It's actually made of keratin, which is the exact same substance that your fingernails are made out of. So one of the big ways to prevent the extinction of rhinos is education and teaching people that getting the word out that rhino horn does not cure anything, and it's far more useful for a rhino to have a horn than for you to have a rhino horn.
Yeah, of course. For my next question, who do you relate most to the characters in your books? Who do you relate to the most?
I really do relate to Teddy Fitzroy in FunJungle, because I think Teddy is really he's sort of living my dream life, but he knows a lot of animals. I did as a kid. My friends and I, we did live right on sort of the edge of like kind of civilization. There were woods right out across the street, out through our backyards. And so we spent a lot of time walking around in the woods in the Texas Hill Country, catching lizards and snakes and turtles and looking for wild animals. And I thought, man, and I should say, I loved going to the zoo. I went to the zoo as much as I could in San Antonio. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was like a huge zoo, and I could, I got to live there. I got to go behind the scenes whenever I wanted. So that whole world I created for FunJungle, and Teddy really gets to live my dream life as a child.
Yes. Thank you for your time, Stuart.
Oh, sure thing.